Let me tell you an amazing thing. This is a little bit of a mystical thought, but you might enjoy it. There was a great Mukubal, Ramami Pano, Menachem Azaria of Pano in Italy. And he wrote many Svarim, which are based on Kabbalah. This is a very interesting thing. In Chumash Bamidbar,
who is this again?
The Ramar, Menachem Azaria of Pano. There's in the book of Bamidbar, there's a list of cities which the Jews conquered in Eretz Yisrael, in their initial conquest of Eretz Yisrael. And these cities are called Musabos Shem. When the Jews conquered these cities, they had to change the names of the cities. They couldn't allow the cities to retain their original names. And Rashi says, because these names were all names of Avodah Zarah, or the various deities. The cities were named after the pagan deities. So when the Jews conquered these cities, they were Musabos Shem. The Jews had to change the names. They couldn't, imagine the Jewish community in Corpus Christi, for example. It's hard to. I remember once I stumbled across a siddur. I don't know how it got to Baltimore, but it was from a synagogue in England, St. John's Wood Synagogue.
From New Zealand, Christchurch.
Pardon?
Christchurch, New Zealand.
Also,
yeah, right.
Also Barbados. There's a shul in Christchurch, Barbados.
Yeah. That's what it's called?
The area of, the canton is called Christchurch.
No, but that's the name of the synagogue?
No, that's the address of the synagogue.
Yeah, but here's the name of the synagogue, the St. John's Wood Synagogue. Anyway, so they changed the names. Now, one of the names, actually the last on the list, was named Sivma. Sivma. Sin, Mem, Beis, Mem, Hey. Sivma. So, any significance to that name, Sivma? So the Ramai Pano says an amazing thing.
That was the old name or the new name?
That was the old name. Right? That's the last name on the list. So he says like this. He says, if anyone ever learned Maseches Bava Kama, so the first Mishnah Maseches Bava Kama says, Arba Avais Nezikin. There are 4 major categories of damages. There are 4 different ways in which property can cause damage, or a person can cause damage. And they are shor, I mean a person's axe, an animal causes damage. Bor, a person digs a pit and something falls in. Mavet, which will go with the opinion of Rav in the Gemara, which means Odam HaMask, a person who causes damage. And Hay is Hever, fire. If a person makes a fire and the fire escapes. These are the 4 different forms of damage which the Torah discusses. Shor, Bor, Mava, Hever. Now the Mukubalim tell us that this Mishnah, although it's talking about damages in the mundane world, also alludes to 4 negative spiritual forces. Shor, Bor, Mava, and Hever. 4 negative spiritual forces. These are the 4 klipos teneos, the 4 forms of impurity, and these correspond to the 4 avais nezikin. Now these 4, Shor, Bor, Mav, Hever, the Rashi Tevis, the first letter spells Sivma. Sivma. And the Mukubalim go to explain exactly what Shor symbolizes, and what Bor symbolizes, and what Mav symbolizes, and what Hever symbolizes, 4 different aspects of impurity, etc. And this was a very impure city, because the whole city was saturated with the 4 forms of impurity, so really this was a city that was a terribly impure place.
It implies a very high level of knowledge on the people.
Now, there's a holy city in Eretz Yisrael called Yerushalayim. And the last verse in Yecheskel talks about the city of Yerushalayim in Mashiach's time, how great it will be. And it says like this, it says, V'shem ha'ir, and the name of the city, Miyoim, from that great day, will be, not Yerushalayim anymore, it will be called Hashem Shama. God is there. That's what the verse says. V'shem ha'ir miyoim, the name of the city from that great day, will be Hashem Sham. God is there. But there's another way to read the pasuk. V'shem ha'ir miyoim Hashem, that the name of the city from the day of God will be Sham. The name of the city is Sham, which is Shin Mem Hey. So it's Sivma without the bays.
Without the bet.
Without the base, without the base. So the Ramban Pana says like this. He says, because the four Avos Nazikim, the shor, the bor, the mava, the hever, these correspond to four spiritual flaws. But every spiritual imperfection can be sublimated, or almost everyone can be sublimated. And therefore, in Mashiach's time, the shor will be rectified. The mava will be rectified. The hever will be rectified. But the bays, the bor, can't be salvaged. Because he says the bor, the empty pit, that symbolizes leitzanos. That symbolizes mockery, cynicism. And that can't be sublimated. That has to be just erased. And therefore, Sivma, which is that city of the four main categories of impurity, 3 of the 4 can be rectified. And in Yerushalayim of the Messianic age, it'll be Shama, Shin Mem Hey. The shore will be rectified, the mav will be rectified, the hever will be rectified, but not the bor, not the pit. Because the empty pit symbolizes cynicism, where nothing has value, it's total emptiness, and that can't be sublimated. That just has to be eliminated. So Sivma will become Shama, but the base has no rectification. That's a cute little thought. But the point I'm making is that there are certain things that can be redirected and sublimated. Certain things just have to be totally erased from your personality. That's the ash which is left behind. In other words, the blood, again, symbolizes the soul, the intellect, right? Pouring the soul on the altar symbolizes the sublimation of the mind, of the intellect. Burning the parts on the altar symbolizes the sublimation of the body, which means the sublimation of the midas, of the personality traits. Some can ascend. Some are just left behind. And they can't be elevated. That's the deshen, that's the ash, which is left behind. Okay? Very good. That would be fine if the ash was then just dumped. But what is this trumas hadeshen? What is the elevation of the ash? In Sifri Chasidus it says an idea that you see from here that even something which is so far gone, so far removed, also has a spark of holiness in it which can be elevated. Which is certainly true. But the Sefer Beis Yaakov, from the son of the Ishbitzer, says something else. He says something which is amazing. He says, what is the impetus? What drives us to strive for self-improvement, to strive for growth? It is precisely the recognition of our own imperfections. Because when we recognize our faults, we recognize that we haven't been perfect, we haven't done everything we should do, we've fallen short, that is the inspiration, that is the impetus to strive for more. In other words, if we would go through life and everything we would do would turn to gold, we would not have that drive to work harder, to strive for more. It's precisely because we fail and we fall short that we wake up the next morning and we realize, okay, I really have to be better today because yesterday was not perfect. And when the Chazal say this, Chazal say an amazing thing. Chazal say there are certain types of divrei Torah that ein odom omed aleim ela im kein nichshol behem. A person cannot master them until he's made a mistake. And you can't get it right the first time. But when you blow it, then you say, boy, did I make a mess of that? Okay, let me start from the beginning again, and then finally you do get it. That success is not an ongoing process of ascent. Success often is built of necessity on the foundation of failure. And I think this is an observation that has been made in the business world. That if you see people that are very successful in business, and you ask them about their histories, and you'll discover they had failures in their earlier career, it's not that they're successful today despite their failures, but they are successful today precisely because of their failures. Whereas those experiences taught them more than their successes. I think we all know that. And this is not a chidush at all. That we learn more from our failures than we learn from our successes.
It's a military view. Generals will always tell you that you learn more from the wars you lose than the ones you win.
Yeah, of course.
But you always want to fight the same war that you won. It doesn't work.
Yeah. So therefore, the idea of the Trumas HaDeshen, if the Deshen symbolizes the places where we've fallen short, right, those aspects of our personality which we cannot sublimate, right, the recognition of these becomes the greatest impetus for harder work, continued effort, and continued ascent. And therefore we take a portion of that Deshen and we elevate it. We raise it. It's the Trumas HaDeshen. Now the ash, again, generally, the ash, there's not much we can do with. The leftover ash, we don't elevate it at all. We just take it, we remove it from the temple, we put it in a pure place, but not in a holy place. So really, we're talking about something which can't be elevated, but it has a purpose, because it enables us to strive for something which is higher. And the Beis Yaakov says something amazing. That this portion of ash which is elevated, what is done with it? You put it next to the altar and it is absorbed. What does it mean it's absorbed? It means it becomes a part of the temple itself. It is being absorbed into the floor of the temple, means it is incorporated in the temple. We all understand the temple is the place where we serve the Ribono Shel Olam. It's not just the place, it facilitates, it enables us. Without a Beis HaMikdash, we can't serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And what is absorbed into the very fabric of the Beis HaMikdash? Not those things that we successfully elevated, but precisely those things where we fail, which is the symbol of the Deshen. Right? It is our failures that are incorporated into the temple, because those form the foundation. And therefore, the Beis Yaakov says an amazing thing. That's why the Trumas HaDeshen is not the unfinished business of yesterday. It's the Tchilas Avodas Hayom. It's the beginning of today's Avodah. In other words, it is the spark, it is the drive which pushes us to greater performance today. So therefore, despite the fact you read the Parsha, you get the impression the exact opposite. This is just the unfinished business of yesterday. Really, it is the beginning of the Avodas Hayom. In other words, what drives us today is the recognition that yesterday we didn't achieve all we wanted to achieve. Today's a fresh start. It's a new day. Today we're going to be better. And therefore we start the day with the Trumas HaDeshen. We take the failures of the day before, we elevate them, and this is how we start our day. It's a new day of Avodah in the Beis HaMikdash. So this is really, I think, a very, very down-to-earth approach. When it comes to the realm of values, the things that we believe, the things that we think, so here we have to change our thinking, modify our thinking. That's the symbol of offering the blood on the altar. The blood is the neshama, it's the intellectual soul. We have to change our way of thinking. We do that, of course, by learning. We learn Torah, we discover what is important in the eyes of Torah, what is meant to be rejected, and so on and so forth. The body parts correspond to the areas of midas, right? We have to find those personality traits which can be sublimated and do that. Because everyone has traits which he misuses from time to time, but can be used for good. I mean, just to give an example, let's say you have a person who is very, very perceptive when it comes to human nature. He really understands people well. In other words, he can have a conversation with someone, and he understands exactly what's going through your head, what you're thinking about. Now, that can be used in many different ways. It can be used to con people, right? Because if I know what will excite you, what will make you enthusiastic, what you'll fall for, I can use that to manipulate you. On the other hand, I can take the same talent and I can use it to understand you, to help you, to address problems you may have. So therefore, that's something we have to do. We have to try to take those talents we have, personality traits we have, and use them for the good. That is the symbol of the body parts which are burnt on the altar, because as we said, the midos, the character traits, reside in the guf. That which can't be sublimated just has to be eliminated. You know, and there are many midos that come to mind. For example, disorganization, panic. Because I don't think there's any way that we're going to turn panic into a positive trait, or we're going to turn disorganization into a positive trait. It doesn't seem to be possible. I mean, people that are...
Panic, maybe.
No, not
Rhesus.
panic. Pardon?
It can affect laziness.
Yeah, but you know, panic is by definition a loss of control. You're out of control. You're not able to grab your bull by the horn, so to speak. So that's not something which can be used in a positive way. It has to be dealt with, but not by figuring out some way to elevate it. This is the deshen. This is the ash which is left behind, the residue. But when we recognize that we have things to work on, right, that gives us the impetus to strive for greater achievements each day, and therefore it has a purpose. It has a purpose. Everything in the world has a purpose. Right? Even the things that are negative have a purpose, if only that they're the inspiration for us to improve ourselves. Yes?
Can't panic also turn into more of Yiras Hashem?
No. Yiras Hashem is something totally different. Yiras Hashem, there are two forms of Yiras Hashem. Yiras Hashem is, number one, enlightened self-interest. In other words, I'm not going to do something to defy God because I understand this is not in my best interest. Right? There are consequences, there are punishments. That's called Yiras HaOnesh. Now, Yiras HaOnesh doesn't mean that I'm in a situation I panic. Right? When I stand at the street corner and the light is red, and if I don't cross, this cars, I'm not panicking. Right? I'm exercising prudence. Right? If the cars are zooming back and forth, it makes no sense for me to step into the road and get hit. Okay? So with great calmness, I stand on the curb until the signal allows me to cross. Right? That's Yiras Hashem. It's the same thing. Because Yiras Hashem doesn't mean that when I contemplate cleaning for Pesach, right, I panic because maybe there'll be a piece of chametz somewhere. Right? Yiras Hashem tells me that since it's very important that the chametz be removed, I have to do this in a very, very organized, systematic way to make sure the job is done well. Okay, that's Yiras HaOnesh. Yiras HaRaimamus is the loftier level, which is I stand in awe of God's majesty. Now, there's a reverence, there's a great respect for God. That also is inconsistent with panic.